Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israel receives bodies of youngest Gaza hostages, including the remains of an 8-month-old infant. Hamas agrees to release all remaining hostages in a single swap during the next phase of Gaza truce. Donald Trump tells dictator Zelensky to move fast or lose Ukraine as US envoy for Russia and Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, visits Kiev. Arab leaders to gather in Saudi Arabia on Friday to discuss a reconstruction plan for Gaza to counter to Trump's takeover proposal. And Delhi gets a BJP government after 27 years. Rekha Gupta, sworn in as Chief Minister, becomes the second woman BJP Chief Minister of India's national capital. Up first, news from West Asia. Hundreds of people gathered on Thursday as Hamas handed the bodies of 4 hostages to Israel, including the 2 youngest captives taken by Hamas in their October 7, 2023 attack. The returned bodies include Kafir Bibas, who was 8.5 months old when he was kidnapped by Hamas. He is the youngest of the 251 hostages taken on the day the group carried out its terror attack on Israel. The Israeli military has said that it has received the hostages' bodies in Gaza. As Israel prepares for the second phase of negotiations, plans are already in motion to discuss the return of around 60 more hostages, though it is feared that fewer than half of them may still be alive.
Begin negotiations on second phase of the hostage deal. Israel is committed to our goal to ensure the release of all our hostages. We also committed to all the objectives of the war as were decided by the Security Cabinet.
Arab leaders will gather, meanwhile, in Saudi Arabia's capital Riyadh on Friday to counter President Donald Trump's plan for US control of Gaza and the expulsion of its inhabitants. The leaders are expected to discuss a reconstruction plan to counter Trump's plan for Gaza. Friday's summit was originally planned for Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar and Jordan. However, it has been expanded to include the 6 Gulf Cooperation Council or GCC countries and the Palestinian Authority. Trump provoked international outrage when he announced that the United States would take over the Gaza Strip, moving 2.4 million Gazans living there to neighboring Egypt and Jordan, while Egypt had said that it would present a plan for a way forward. US President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that Russians have the cards in any negotiation to end the conflict with Ukraine after branding Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky a dictator who refused to hold elections. Trump also warned Zelensky to move fast to secure peace or risk losing his country. Trump's remarks were criticized by the European leaders expressing their support for Ukraine. Here's a report.
As efforts to secure peace in Ukraine continues, the war of words between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky shows no sign of abating. Trump called Zelensky a dictator without election. The comments came after Ukrainian president accused him of living in a Russian disinformation bubble. Trump warned Zelensky to move quickly to secure peace or risk losing his country.
I think the Russians want to see the war end. And I really do. But I think they have the cards a little bit because, you know, they've taken a lot of territory. So they have the cards.
Trump further said that the Ukrainian leader has done a terrible job and could have come to talks with Russia in Saudi Arabia if he had wanted to.
Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably maybe he wants to keep the gravy train going. I don't know what's the problem, but he hasn't been able. He's very upset that he wasn't invited. He could have come if he wanted to, but that he wasn't invited to Saudi Arabia.
Zelensky's 5-year term ended in 2024, but Ukrainian law does not require elections during conflicts. Donald Trump's harsh comments quickly grabbed global attention, with many European leaders voicing for Ukraine. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer spoke to the Ukrainian president on Wednesday and expressed his support for President Zelensky as Ukraine's democratically elected leader and said that it was perfectly reasonable to suspend elections during conflict time. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also said that it is false and dangerous to deny President Zelensky his democratic legitimacy. Meanwhile, Zelensky says that he's counting on unity and courage from his compatriots and pragmatism from the United States. He also mentioned his meeting with U.S. envoy for Russia and Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, on Thursday.
I
rely on Ukrainian unity, on our Ukrainian courage, on our relation with partners, on our European solidarity, and on America's pragmatism, because America needs success just as much as we do. Success brings us together. Our meeting with General Kellogg is scheduled for tomorrow, and it is crucial for us that this meeting and overall cooperation with America is constructive.
Домовились працювати разом і надалі.
Earlier on Wednesday, France held the second round of talks to discuss Ukraine and European security, but has this time invited European countries not present earlier this week and NATO ally Canada.
Unfortunately, recent developments and the different view of things from the United States now oblige us not only to face the truth, but to move at a very high speed and implement decisions that we have been discussing for a long time. Whether we are talking about the establishment of a defense policy that will allow Europe to project different power itself without being permanently, completely dependent on the United States, a crucial issue for our country.
Meanwhile, US is expanding consultation process as French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is set to visit Washington next week, amid other meetings to discuss the Ukraine crisis. Ayushi Bhatnagar's report for DD India.
The Kremlin on Thursday confirmed that discussions on a potential Russia-US prisoner swap are back on the agenda. Spokesman Dmitry Peskov said recent talks in Riyadh helped improve relations between the two countries. The development comes after Moscow released American citizen Caleb Byers with at least 10 other Americans still imprisoned in Russia.
A decision was made to get to resuming the Russian-American dialogue on all parameters. Of course, this topic is on the agenda for bilateral relations, so this cannot be ruled out.
Now, a potential trade war is brewing between the United States and the European Union. The EU has issued a strong warning to Washington, vowing to respond firmly and swiftly if the US imposes new tariffs on European goods. But is there still room for negotiation? DD India's Harshita Oberoi reports.
It's a standoff that threatens to snowball into a terrible economic avalanche which can engulf everything in its wake. Impact is sure to be felt by businesses, workers, and consumers on both sides of the Atlantic. Europe has made it clear it will not back down if Washington moves forward with tariff hikes.
To protect European interests, we will have no choice but to respond firmly and swiftly. But we do hope to avoid this scenario, meaning the unnecessary pain of measures and countermeasures, and remain committed to constructive dialogue.
A sudden unilateral move from Washington could trigger a trade war, disrupting exports and economic stability, something neither side can afford.
With regards to EU-US trade relations, the overall picture is very balanced, providing a robust level playing field for businesses on both sides of the pond. The average EU duty on US goods is 0.9%, whereas EU exports to the US face an average tariff of 1.5%. For certain products, the level of duties varies, but tariff peaks exist on both sides.
If Washington moves forward, multiple sectors will bear the brunt. Germany's car industry is already raising alarm bells, warning that higher tariffs could lead to steeper costs for American drivers. Meanwhile, European officials stress that both sides need to act responsibly. The EU is leaving the door open for negotiation.
So if we are going to talking about lowering the tariffs, even eliminating the tariffs, let's say for industrial products, this would be something which we are ready to discuss. We are ready to go for it. We are ready to discuss.
US President Trump has threatened sweeping reciprocal tariffs on allies and adversaries alike. The White House is reportedly considering new levies tailored to each trading partner based on their existing duties on American goods. The stakes are high. The EU and US together account for nearly 30% of global trade. That dominant share might also become one of casualties of the tariff war. Harshita Oberoi, DD India.
On to Asia. South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol appeared at the country's constitutional court on Thursday for his impeachment trial, which has entered its final stage. The court is reviewing Yoon's impeachment by the South Korean parliament on December 14th and will decide whether to remove him from office permanently or to reinstate him.
The impeachment trial is now in its final stage. We already have the necessary and sufficient conditions for the Constitutional Court to remove Yoon Suk-yeol from office. Time is of the essence. We should swiftly remove Yoon Suk-yeol to save the nation. We will do my utmost until the very end to see this through.
후회합니다. 윤석열과 함께 윤석열 파면을
Yoon and his lawyers have argued that his bid to impose martial law was aimed at thwarting a legislative dictatorship by the opposition-controlled parliament. If Yoon is removed from office, the country must hold fresh presidential elections within 60 days. And next we take a look at what else is making news across the world. In Sri Lanka, 6 elephants have died after being hit by a train between Galloya and Mineria, causing the train to derail. In addition, 2 other elephants have suffered injuries. Authorities said that the incident occurred on the Batikaloa railway line, leading to significant delays in train services. A China Southern Airlines plane arrived in Thailand's Mae So on Thursday to fly home hundreds of Chinese nationals found in scam-running compounds on the Thai-Myanmar border. The compounds run by criminal gangs are staffed by foreigners, many who say they were trafficked and forced to work running internet scams. 2 people were killed in a knife attack in a shopping center in the Czech city of Radek Kralov on Thursday. Police said that they had detained the attacker. Meanwhile, authorities are investigating the motive for the attack. Famous Hollywood artists, including Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan and the Beastie Boys, have donated their items for an auction. This initiative aims to help local groups who will help residents affected by the Los Angeles wildfires. You're watching DD India Live, still to come on this show. Germany's once leading car manufacturing industry faces pushback. We'll tell you why. India's Dr. Jaishankar meets his counterparts from Singapore and Brazil in Johannesburg on the sidelines of the G20 foreign ministers meeting. And India takes on Bangladesh in the ICC Champions Trophy opener in Dubai. back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. First time MLA Rekha Gupta took oath as the Delhi Chief Minister at the historic Ramleela ground on Thursday after the Bharatiya Janata Party returned to power in the national capital after over 26 years. The grand ceremony was attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Chief Ministers and Deputy Chief Ministers of 20 states and other senior BJP leaders and workers. Besides her, 6 newly elected MLAs, Parvesh Verma, Kapil Mishra, Ashish Sood, Pankaj Singh, Manjinder Singh Sirsa and Ravinder Indraj also took oath as members of the new Council of Ministers. Rekha Gupta was chosen as the leader of the House in the Delhi Assembly as the BJP Legislature Party meeting on Wednesday. She became the 4th woman Chief Minister of the National Capital after Sushma Swaraj, Sheila Dikshit and Atishi. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated the newly elected Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta and all the ministers in the new Delhi cabinet, posting photographs of the oath-taking ceremony that was held today in the national capital. In a social media post, Prime Minister Modi said that Rekha Gupta has risen from the grassroots, being active in campus politics, state organization, municipal administration and now MLA as well as the Chief Minister. The Prime Minister, along with other eminent politicians, attended this inauguration ceremony. The 4-day-long 55th Director General level Border Coordination Conference between India's Border Security Force and Border Guard Bangladesh concluded in New Delhi on Thursday. This is the largest level talks between India and Bangladesh held twice every year. In the recently concluded meet, India raised a range of issues, including preventing attacks on BSF personnel and Indian civilians, tackling cross-border crimes and advancing the construction of a single-row fence. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is on a 2-day visit to South Africa, met his counterparts from Singapore and Brazil in Johannesburg and discussed with them global developments and ways to enhance bilateral ties. Dr. Jaishankar met the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Singapore, Vivian Balakrishnan. He also met his Brazilian counterpart, Mauro Vieira, on the sidelines of the meet. The minister will participate in the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting at the invitation of the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation of the Republic of South Africa, Ronald Lamola. Jaishankar's participation in the G20 Foreign Ministers meeting will strengthen India's engagement with the G20 countries and bolster the voice of the Global South in this important forum. The 2-day Innovation Island Summit kicked off in the Sri Lankan capital Colombo on Thursday. India's G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant shared his views on technology, tourism and innovation. Kant described India's growth path over the last decade that propelled India to emerge as a global powerhouse. He said that global governance will undergo a transformation through innovative partnerships, paving the path towards a future that is equitable, sustainable and prosperous.
The Innovation Island Summit symbolizes a very crucial step forward in addressing the unique challenges faced by island nations and crafting collective leadership with global resonance. By uniting our strengths, experiences, and there are many, many positive and creative experiences, by fostering innovative partnerships, we will redefine global governance and pave the way for an equitable, sustainable, and a prosperous future.
Let's take you back to Europe. Dominated by German automakers such as Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, Porsche, Germany holds the reign of the auto industry. At least it used to be that way, which is due to stronger competition from foreign automakers, majorly from Chinese car maker BYD. This is due to the government's subsidies availed by these car makers that has pushed the Germany's once leading sector to the decline. Lars Holte is with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin now on the story. Lars, there's some new numbers out about Germany's auto industry. What can you tell us about it?
Thanks for having me. Indeed, and these numbers are very interesting because, as you rightly pointed out, some of the problems that plague the German auto industry are made abroad. There is competition from Chinese car makers, for example, but there's also weakness for German cars in that market, a market that was once dominated by German brands and where now the country's own brands are taking over the streets. BYD, Geely, Great Wall, and indeed a huge number of Chinese cars are selling fast, not least because they sell at lower prices, thanks to some generous and highly controversial subsidies paid out by the government in Beijing. Well, be that as it may, other countries are not just behind some of German car makers' sales problems. They're also becoming a bit more competitive as a workplace for German car makers, as a location for them to put up plants. For 2 years now, German automakers have invested more money abroad than in Germany. In 2022, out of a total of 89 billion euro, 51% was invested abroad. And in 2023, out of a total of 99 billion euros, it was actually 53% invested abroad. These are brand new numbers. There are no numbers yet for 2024, but the trend is expected to be intact. It's been slowly creeping up on us. Of all the money companies pour into new plants, more and more went abroad, and that underscores the fact that the home market is just not that important anymore.
So what's behind this German car makers outsourcing parts out of Germany? Is it just for cheaper production cost?
No, I'm afraid it's not quite that easy. Of course, companies have always outsourced some work to cheaper locations. And when, for example, Volkswagen is building cars or car parts in Mexico, they're dealing with considerably lower wages than here in Germany or even in the US. But it's not just plants that they're investing in. German automakers are putting more of their research and development abroad, including in the US, of course, that as cars become much more technological. So much in a car is computer-driven. Everything from navigation to safety is chip-based. There are AI components going into cars. There's first-rate communication tools. And for all that, I'm afraid Germany is just not the prime location. That would be Silicon Valley. Oh, and then, of course, there's factors like the current Trump administration in the US. Trump has been threatening the EU and especially German car makers with import tariffs. He wants them to build more cars in America, and it seems some companies are just going to go along with that, partially to placate a president who could do real damage to their business, but partially also because it just makes sense from a business perspective.
Okay, so what does all this mean for Germany as a location for business, Lars?
Well, it's certainly a problem. Germany, and I'm afraid most experts are on the same page here, is not the most attractive location for business right now. Taxes are high. There's a huge bureaucracy to deal with. I just read an interview with the CEO of a large German manufacturing company. They actually just built a plant in the US within a few months. And he said building the entire plant took less time than the approval process would have taken in Germany. So the government really has to work on that. The new government, that is, because we're heading into these elections this very weekend now. But it's clear that we need some drastic action to make Germany more attractive for the industry. And that ranges from lower energy prices all the way to better digitalization.
Okay, thank you very much, Lars Holt there, reporting from DW Berlin. And now we take a look at all the updates from the ICC Champions Trophy 2025. Bangladesh were in dire straits after they won the toss and opted to bat against India in the opening match of the Champions Trophy in Dubai on Thursday. The decision backfired as they lost 5 wickets for merely 35 runs after Mohammad Shami and Harshit Rana took the first 3 wickets. Left-arm spinner Akshar Patel missed a hat-trick after India captain Rohit Sharma dropped an easy catch in slips. Patel had dismissed Tanzeed Hassan and Mushfiqur Rahim of consecutive deliveries in the 9th over. Then Tawheed Hridoy and Jakir Ali stabilized the innings with over 100 runs partnership. Both scored half-centuries, taking the total over 180 runs when reports last came in. And in a big blow for host Pakistan ahead of its high-stakes Champions Trophy clash against India, opening batter Fakhar Zaman has been ruled out due to an injury. Fakhar sustained the injury during Pakistan's tournament opener against New Zealand. The incident occurred early in the match when Fakhar landed awkwardly while diving to stop a boundary. Despite the setback, Fakhar later came out to bat at number 4 instead of his usual opening slot. Left-handed opener Imamul Haq has been named as the replacement for the remainder of the tournament. And in London, over 150 young adults aged between 20 and 35 ditched their digital screens and participated in a 2-hour digital detox night. During the event, they switched off their phones and participated in various activities such as painting, knitting, reading books and novels, and much more. Perhaps we all need to go through this digital detox once in a while. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and the world on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.